I am the worst. Because this is gonna be the video where I just like DNF every single thing on my bookshelves. And I'm just loving this so much more than I thought I was going to. Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby, and today we're gonna be doing another episode of the Backlist Bonanza. And this is basically a series that I do on my channel where I read books from my backlist shelves. And what I mean by that is any books that have been sitting on my shelves for a while, like any books that were published in the year of 2024 or before that. I just like to use these episodes as an opportunity for me to read books that have been sitting on my shelves for a while, because otherwise I really get excited about a lot of the new releases and I don't often let myself read books that have been sitting there for a while. So this series is a great way to encourage me to do that. And in this episode, we're going to be doing another round of the spin the wheel, choosing books off of my backlist for me to read. I think this is actually the fourth time I've done an episode that includes the spin the wheel, but I will have every single episode of the Backlist Bonanza linked down below. And it does seem like this spin the wheel version of this episode is always highly requested from me because a lot of people really seem to love the spin the wheel, and I'm definitely one of them. I just love the anticipation of like not knowing what I'm gonna read for a video, because I am such a planner, and so it really like freaks me out to like give up this control to the spin the wheel gods and have them decide what I'm gonna be reading. Okay, so as you can see here, we have my spin the wheel. I think that I have updated this since the last time that I did this spin the wheel, so like I removed anything that I've recently read. And you know, ideally in this video, I would like to read maybe like 3 to 4 books. It kind of depends on how much I end up DNFing, because I do allow myself to DNF during this video, because for me, the whole point of this, you know, process is to like read books that are currently on my backlist. But if I'm not showing any interest in wanting to read it, and if it's putting me in a slump, then like that completely defeats the purpose of this. And if it's not for me, then it's not for me. So let's see what we're gonna get first. Oh my god, I'm scared. I don't even know what I'm in the mood for. And I have a lot of different genres on this spin the wheel. Oh my god. What is it gonna be? The Takeover. Okay, I think that this one's a romance. Let me go look for it. Okay, so I have a bunch of different new releases covering all of these back here. Okay, I see it's right there. The Takeover. Ugh. Ugh. Oh my god, it's so purple. Okay, so I just found the book on my shelves. This is The Takeover, and on the top here it says, she wished for her soulmate but got him instead. This sounds like it's gonna be cute. I think that this one's like an office romance. I don't know, on the back it says that we're following this character named Nami on her 30th birthday. Wow, so how perfect for me to read this book now, because I just turned 30 this year in January. It says her fiance blew up their engagement. Her pride and joy, the tech company that she helped to found, is about to lose funding, and her sister is getting married to the man of her dreams. And she's fighting off jealousy, she's frustrated with her life, she makes a wish on her birthday candle to find her soulmate. Instead, the universe delivers her hate mate. It says that this guy is her old nemesis, the most popular kid from high school. Okay, so it sounds like it's gonna be like banter, like they don't like each other. That is something that I really enjoy in romances. And this book actually did publish in 2024, so it hasn't been out too long, but it has been sitting on my shelves for like about a year now. So that's exciting. I can't wait to get to this one first. But before we do jump into the reading vlog, I just wanted to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, which is Factor. Living an active and healthy lifestyle isn't always easy, and cooking on top of work, kids, relationships, etc. can feel overwhelming. Factor gives you the flexibility to stay active without having to get a quick cheat meal when short on time. Something that I love about Factor is that this thing goes into the microwave for 2 minutes and you have a fresh and nutritious meal ready to go. And with an expanded menu, Factor is making accomplishing your wellness goals even more exciting. Factor has doubled the size of their menu, and now they have 80 plus rotating weekly meals. They have 3 times the amount of weekly meals that they had before, and these meals are all chef-crafted, restaurant quality meals. They're also introducing a new meal customization option that allows you to select certain proteins to be swapped out at no additional cost. So as an example, if you love chicken and you hate pork chops, then you can swap them out for no additional cost. Factor is adding more exciting flavors to the menu, so you can enjoy nutritious meals without having to compromise on the flavor. I just love having the convenience of Factor, especially after a long, busy day. The last thing that I want to do is cook in the kitchen. I just love that Factor helps me stick to my routines, and that I still get a very nutritious meal even on days where I'm feeling very lazy and I don't want to cook. Any of their meals that include the chicken are some of my favorites. Like, the flavor is always so incredible. So you can head to factor75.com or click the link down below and use my code gabbyreadsfb50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code gabbyreadsfb50 at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's an amazing deal. So thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the reading vlog. hello. It has been a few hours since I updated you, but I have started reading The Takeover. I was actually doing some Patreon reading sprints this afternoon, and I got the chance to start on this one, and I got up to chapter 7 of this book. I'm 76 pages in, and I think I'm gonna make the decision to DNF this one because I'm just not having a fun time with this. This is one that I almost immediately could feel it right away that like this writing style is just not working for me. There's something about it that makes me feel so distant from the characters. It just feels like it's written in this way that feels very boring to me, and I don't like how so much of this story is about this character's job. The beginning of this book is so depressing because she's talking a lot about how like the pandemic really like changed a lot of things in their office, and like a lot of people got laid off, a lot of people lost their jobs, and a lot of the beginning of this book is just like reading these email exchanges that are just so boring. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't care. And she's having to like make a lot of really hard decisions about like the business. And then in alternating chapters, we do get this guy's perspective, and his perspective is kind of like equally boring. There's a lot of stuff about his job as well. I just really do not feel invested in either of these characters right at the start of this book. And I can just feel from the writing that I'm probably not going to give this anything higher than like a 3-star at most. It's just really not what I'm in the mood for at this moment in time. So I think I'm going to make this decision to DNF this book early on. I know that we're not starting this video off on the best note, but I do have to be honest that this is probably not the romance book for me. And I mean, with a vlog like this, it is kind of exciting because then it just means I get to spin again. Okay, so let me just send you back just a tad bit so I have room for my spin the wheel. Okay, let's see, what are we gonna get next? I am so thrilled to find out. Please give me something great, please. Oh my god, I thought I was gonna land on Divine Rivals. Okay, we have Under Your Spell. I think this is another romance book. Is this the one with the guitar on the cover? Let me go find it. I think it's back here somewhere. Oh, there she is. Under Your Spell. Okay, so this is the one that I thought it was gonna be. This one is a romance book that I think it leans a little bit more like contemporary fiction from what I remember. I mean, it does say perfect for fans of Christina Lauren and Emily Henry, so like that's exciting. It says the daughter of an aging rock star finds herself working for the hottest musician on the planet and is shocked when sparks start to fly, especially since she'd swore she'd never date a celebrity. I mean, I am intrigued to read this. You know, I added it to my TBR for a reason because I do love reading books about musicians. And I've had this ARC copy sitting on my shelves since June 2024, so like, oops. I mean, I definitely meant to get to this last year and I just never got around to it, so the time is now. Okay, hi. It's been a few days now since the last time that I updated this vlog, and I am the worst. I really didn't want to have to start off this vlog this way, but I am about 80 pages into this book, and I think I want to DNF it. Like, I'm really not liking this. And I'm so annoyed at myself because I've actually had to restart this book 2 different times because I was so uninterested in the beginning. Like, I could not focus for the life of me on this audiobook. And so I had to restart from the beginning after I was already about like 30 pages into it because I was like, wait, what is even going on? Like, what am I reading? For a second, I thought this was like a different genre because the first chapter of this book was so strange to me. It almost felt like it was like a fantasy book or something. And I guess it felt kind of fantasy to me because we're following this girl named Clementine, and right at the start of this, it says when her sisters get her drunk and suggest reviving a childhood ritual called the breakup spell, she doesn't see the harm in it. And so she's like doing this breakup spell at the beginning of this, and I was like, what am I reading right now? Like, is this a fantasy book? Like, I was so lost. And I made it all the way up to part 2 of this book, and I can just tell you that this is like not gonna be the book for me. I feel like sometimes I just know almost like right away, just based off the writing style and how I just don't really care about any of the characters right off the bat. Like, I can just tell you right now, this is not gonna be a very highly rated book from me. It's not something that I can see myself caring about, and honestly, like, trying to read this right now, it's making me feel like I'm in a reading slump. Like, I don't want to read this. I've been trying to read this for the last 2 days, and I just can't will myself to pick it up and do it. Also, whenever I see this book title, it reminds me of that song, Under Your Spell. You know that song that was in the movie Drive? You keep me under your spell, you keep me under your spell. Oh, such a good song. Like, I'm obsessed with that song. So it does suck that this book isn't doing anything for me. I'm actually kind of surprised too because when I looked on Goodreads, this book has really high average ratings, and a lot of people really seem to be loving this one. And I just got to the point in the story now where she's like meeting the guy named Theo that's gonna be like her love interest in the book, but like, I just don't care. I just don't care about their romance. I don't care about these characters, and I just know I'd probably put myself into a reading slump if I tried to finish this. So like, God, I'm sorry. I'm the worst. Hopefully this is the last DNF we have for this video. All right, so we are back here again with our spin the wheel. Let's spin and see what we get. I'm kind of like nervous to get another romance again, to be honest, because I'm like, what if it's just the romance books that are not doing anything for me? Oh my God, the hollow kind. Okay, this is exciting. This is a horror book that's been on my TBR for like literally forever. Let me go grab it. Okay, I just grabbed it off my bookshelves. It's this one, the hollow kind. Oh my gosh, I love how blue this cover is. Ooh, and when you open it, there's like a freaking map on the inside, so that's cool. Look at how stunning. Wow. This one says it's a terrifying novel about legacy and the nightmares hidden in family stories. It says the hollow kind is a twisted tale of cosmic horror mixed with a stunning Southern Gothic fable that will haunt you long after you turn the final page. Okay. I've heard really good things about this one, I'm pretty sure. Wow, it's over 400 pages. It's like 430 pages. That's crazy. Well, I hope that this ends up being the book of my dreams. I can't wait to give this one a shot. Hello, it is now almost 4:30 in the afternoon, but I wanted to check in because I've started reading The Hollow Kind, and I'm now 170 pages in. I actually just hit part 3 in the book, so I thought now would be a good time to update you. I've had such a busy afternoon. I decided to go to the gym this afternoon, even though it's so freaking hot today. Oh my god. In my car, it was like 90 degrees, and it's just feeling like a very toasty summer day. But I am glad that I went because I haven't gone to the gym in a few days, and I just really needed to go. And then, of course, after getting home, I washed my hair because I desperately needed it. But anyway, The Hollow Kind is going well so far. I will admit that this does feel like such a slow burn at times. It almost makes me want to like skim certain parts of it. I mean, luckily I was able to download the audiobook from my library, so the audiobook is helping me so much push through this. But in this story, we're following this woman named Nellie, and right at the start of this book, she finds out that she's inheriting this property and this estate from her long lost grandfather that she like never knew. She has an 11-year-old son named Max, and so both of them end up going to Georgia to go to this estate. It's kind of like your typical, you know, kind of horror book where like something feels off about the estate. They don't know what. There's a lot of history there. And something that I didn't realize about this book is that it was going to be taking place in the year of 1989, but then we also get other chapters that are taking place in the year 1917, and we kind of go back and forth between those two timelines. And in the 1917 chapters, you're reading about the man August Redfern, who was her long lost grandfather, and you're kind of learning like the history of this estate and like why things are so creepy and weird. And I will admit, at the beginning, I was like, oh no. Like the second we got a 1917 flashback chapter, I was like, oh god. I was like, is this gonna be like super historical? And like I was a little bit bored by those chapters at first, so I was skimming the 1917 chapters at first until around like 100 pages in, something interesting was finally happening in those chapters, and so now I'm kind of more invested in the flashback chapters than I am in like the 1989 chapters. I don't know, I mean, I do like both, but I think this book has been such a slow burn so far, so I am kind of nervous for, you know, this book being like 430 pages. I'm like, does it need to be that long? I don't think so. Also, I just hit a point in the book where we had the first interlude, and it says summer 1975, and we get an interlude about this other girl. I mean, I only ever see like Stephen King doing interludes, and then I think Chuck Wendig has like done interludes a few times, but most of the time in the horror books that I read, I get so annoyed with the interludes. I'm like, there is no reason for this. And like an interlude is just like, it's almost like a little short story about something else that maybe is relevant, maybe it's not. I always find myself skimming the interludes because like I just don't really care about them, and so I am kind of nervous. I'm like, how many interludes are there gonna be? Because it said that was the first one, so now I'm scared. But I do like the vibes of this so far. I feel like it's doing like a good job with like creating a creepy atmosphere, and I do like this mom's relationship with her 11-year-old son. I do think that they're, you know, interesting enough characters for me to not want to DNF this immediately, so that's a great sign. I also think this kind of has that cool element of like, is there something with the wilderness? I don't really know exactly how to describe the horror in this, but so far it is working for me. I just hope that it ramps up on the horror because so far it's been such a slow burn that almost nothing has happened really in the first 170 pages. So like, I'm hoping that the ending of this will be satisfying. I'm just glad that I finally am reading a book that I actually care to finish. You know, like that's a great improvement. I'm probably gonna finish reading the rest of this book tomorrow. I think for the rest of the night, I'm probably just gonna make one of my taco bowls, as you might have been able to guess, you know, because I do have some leftover beef that I need to use probably tonight. So I'm gonna make my taco bowls, you know, my staple, my go-to. And then I'm probably just gonna watch a lot more of Gilmore Girls with my mom because we're currently loving Gilmore Girls, and it's been so much fun to watch it for the first time ever with my mom. And if you were wondering, we are finishing up season 1 tonight. We only have 2 more episodes, I think, of season 1, and then we'll be starting season 2. Anyway, I will update you tomorrow with thoughts on this once I finish it. Hello, good afternoon. It is now the next day, but I wanted to update you because I just finished reading The Hollow Kind. And like, oh my god, this feels like a situation where I'm like, maybe it just would have been better if I did DNF, because I'm probably gonna end up giving this around like 2.5 stars. I was pretty underwhelmed by this book. I mean, god, if I did not have access to this audiobook, I guaranteed would have DNF'd this because this was a lot to push through. I don't think this book needed to be over 400 pages long, and I think that it might just be like this author's writing style is just not really for me. Because while this story did have, you know, really great atmosphere, it was also like such a slow burn that I found myself feeling so bored for like 90% of this reading experience. And it wasn't until I would say the last like 80, maybe even the last like 50 pages where like things really started to pick up, at least action-wise in the plot. But like at that point, I couldn't even find myself caring about what was happening at the end because I had just been so bored the entire book. And I never got too attached to these characters, at least not in the way that I wanted to. I mean, I do think something this author does really well is like building this creepy kind of like gothic atmosphere. I think there was a lot of moments in this book that were actually very creepy, but it never went into the territory where I actually felt like scared or like really freaked out. It just kind of had this subtle creepiness to it that I did really like. And then I also really liked there were a lot of like graphic descriptions of like some gruesome horror things. Some very intense imagery that's definitely gonna like stick in my head, especially like involving animals. You might notice that there's this bear on the cover and like that definitely plays a part in this story. There also did end up being another interlude in the story, and like the first one, I just didn't really care too much about that second interlude, and I didn't really see the point in including those. I don't know, I guess I'm also starting to realize that some horror books that are described as being like gothic horror, sometimes they just don't end up being for me because most of the time I find them to be very boring and very like slow paced. And I know that with a gothic horror novel, it tends to be more about the atmosphere, at least in most cases, than about like the actual story itself. And I just don't know if that's like my kind of horror, you know? But I am glad that I finally read this one. I mean, it's been on my TBR for like at least 3 years now. And I'm so proud of myself for finishing this one because, oh my god, at times I was like, should I just DNF it? Like, should I just say fuck it and DNF it? But I didn't. I followed through. And I don't know if it was worth me finishing though, because the ending was pretty underwhelming in my opinion, and like I didn't really gain anything from finishing this. And it's still gonna be like 2.5 stars, but like at least I finished something. Okay, and now is the time we spin the wheel again. Okay, as you can see, we've got the spin the wheel here. We're gonna spin and give it a go. Please give me something good. Oh my god. I need a win right now, and I could really just use a win. What is that? The Impossible Love Life of Amanda Dean. What? Do I still even own this book? It sounds familiar. Let me go check my shelves. Hey, Amanda Dean, where are you at? Oh my god, I do have it. It's right here. This one. The Seemingly Impossible Love Life of Ava Dean. That is a long book title, but I just checked and my library does have the audiobook for this one available, so that's nice. I just downloaded it now and I'm gonna listen to the first few chapters. I'm also like terrified though because I just opened Goodreads. Like, why did I do that? I don't know. But this book has a 3.46 out of 5 on Goodreads. Like, what the heck? And it only has 400 ratings, even though it came out last year. Like, that's not very good. This doesn't feel promising. Like, is this gonna be the video where I just like DNF every single thing on my bookshelves? I did pick up this book last year though because I love romance books that follow weddings. And I think something that was interesting about this book is that I think this main protagonist girl is bisexual, and I think it talks about like the different love interests that she's had in her life. So maybe it's gonna be like the best thing that I've ever read in my life. You never know. Wait, I'm gonna start reading this one and then I will let you know my thoughts. Tonight, I'm actually going over to my sister's apartment to hang out for a bit.
I was a rebel without a cause, living out of the blue. Used to think I knew it all, but didn't have a clue. Love was just a game, wore my heart on my sleeve. Nothing scared me anyway, nothing could ever break me. Now I'm falling down, thought I'd have it figured out by now.
Okay, hello. It is now the next afternoon, but I did want to update this vlog because I have been reading Amanda Dean. I didn't want to say the entire title because it's so long. And I'm now 166 pages in. You know, at the start of this, I did feel a lot of temptation to DNF this book because I do think this book is just kind of okay. It's a little bit slow moving, but I am curious enough to finish this book. I think the thing that's really interesting about this book is that we're following this character, Amanda Dean, but she goes by Mandy. But the most interesting thing about this is that, you know, her character, she is bisexual, and so much of this story is about like her life, you know, like growing up as like a teenager. I think one of the flashbacks that we get is when she's as young as like middle school age, and we kind of get to see the different relationships that she's had with all of these different men and women over the years of her life. And it's actually kind of fun because in the present day timeline that's taking place in 2019, you don't actually know who she's marrying. And like even now, as deep into the book as I am, which I'm about like halfway through at this point, like we still don't know who she actually ends up marrying in the end. So it is fun in the sense that like there is a little bit of a mystery. It's almost like a How I Met Your Mother kind of a thing where like you don't know who she's gonna end up with. So you're reading about all these different past partners that she's been with, which I do really like, but I also think, oh my god, it makes the writing a little bit confusing because like every chapter is almost taking place in like a different year. I mean, she's getting married in the year 2019, but then the next chapter will be like a flashback to like 1993 when she was like a kid, and then we get flashbacks to like 1998, and then 2005, 2015, 2006. Like it's almost like every single chapter is in a different timeline to the point where like it's giving me whiplash because I'm like, oh my god, like what are we talking about? Like who are we with? It's just really hard to keep track of who she was with at like the different points in her life. So I don't love the way that this book is being written. Like I think the timeline thing is a little bit confusing and very like disorienting and hard to follow. I was looking on Goodreads and I noticed that a lot of people ended up rating this book pretty low because they thought the timeline was too confusing, and I think that that's very valid. I mean, I love what this author is trying to do with this story because I think this is so cool. I feel like this is something that I've been wanting out of a book for a really long time, to like explore a character who is bisexual and kind of get to see all the different lovers of her past. Like I think it's a really interesting concept, and I love the idea of trying to figure out which one of her past partners might be the one that she's marrying in the present day. I just don't know if I feel that connected to Mandy as a character and like any of the characters in general. Like I just don't feel that invested, and like that's kind of why I was like thinking about DNFing this book. I mean, halfway through, like I am enjoying it. I think it's fine. I don't think that this is anything that I'm gonna rate higher than like 3 stars, but concept wise, this is really cool. I think part of the reason why this one might be boring to me specifically a little bit is because this character is involved with art, and there's a lot of conversations about like the art world and her getting more into art over time. And you know, I talk about this pretty often, but like a lot of the times I can find the art talk to be very pretentious and like very annoying. So like that's just a me thing with this book. But I mean, this one's going fine. I'm not loving it, but I'm not hating it either. And so I think I'm gonna finish the second half of this audiobook later tonight. I'm actually doing some reading sprints on my Patreon right now. Like I'm wrapping up the final sprint. And then right after this, I'm gonna be making dinner for me and my parents. I just got the HelloFresh delivered, and one of the meals that I'm making tonight is like one of my favorite HelloFresh dishes. So I can't wait to eat that. And then later tonight, my mom and I are gonna watch the new episode of The Summer I Turned Pretty, which has been like the thing that I look forward to the most this summer, especially on Wednesdays. It's like my favorite thing to watch the new episode with my mom. So I can't wait for that to happen. And then hopefully later tonight, I can finish up the second half of this one on audio because it is a really quick read. It is so much later at night. Now it's about 11:30, and I wanted to update you because I just finished reading The Seemingly Impossible Love Life of Amanda Dean, and we watched the new episode of The Summer I Turned Pretty, and like we watched episode 8 tonight of season 3, and like that one might have been the messiest of all of the mess. It was so entertaining. It was so good. I can't wait to see where the show's going next. I mean, at this point, there's only 3 episodes left. I know that this video is probably going to be going up way later. The show might already be done by the time that you're seeing this. Also, look at how cute. My mom just gave me this Forks sweatshirt that she found at Value Village today. I actually really love this color maroon. Like, I don't have a lot of stuff in this color. That was very kind of her. But anyway, I did want to update you that I've finished this book. book, and like, I don't know what I want to rate this book. It's probably gonna end up being somewhere between like 2.5, 3 stars. I thought this was fine. I pretty much agree with everything that I was saying earlier today about this, and something that I forgot to mention is that I do think that this book does read a little bit like a young adult at times, and I know part of that is probably because we are reading about Mandy when she's like a teenage girl in some of these chapters, but even in, you know, the adult sections, like even when she's like getting married, it does read a little bit YA, and I can't exactly put my finger on why that is. I also think this book is probably rated low, not only because it's a little bit confusing, but I also think this book is probably rated pretty low because it's pretty boring, because so much of this book is just like her day-to-day life, and like the pacing is just so slow in so many of these chapters. There were only a few timelines in this book that I was actually interested in reading, and you know, by the time we do get to the end of this book, I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it didn't really make me feel anything. It just really lacked any depth in the writing to like make me care about like what was going on and like who she was gonna end up with. It just sucks to rate this book a little bit low because I do think the concept for this book is very fascinating and very cool. I love the idea of this. I just didn't really love the way that it was written, but I am glad that I finished it, and now it's time to pick the next book. All right, I've got the spin the wheel here. So far for this video, I've had 2 DNFs and 2 books that I finished, so let's see what I get next. I'm scared. Definitely Better Now? Definitely Better Now. What is that? It's back here somewhere, I think. It's this one. Okay, Definitely Better Now is this one, and I actually do have the Book of the Month copy of this, but I did buy this book used the last time that I was in Seattle. I actually got this from Magus Books in downtown Seattle. It says, a touching and deeply funny debut about starting over sober only to discover life's biggest messes are still waiting right where you left them. I think this one is kind of like a contemporary, maybe even like literary fiction kind of book about this woman, you know, like starting over and like trying to better herself. So I'm excited to read this. I think I picked this one up because I had a feeling that maybe it would give like Emily Austen vibes or something like that. I think tomorrow when I read this, I might actually go out to one of the local coffee shops and get some breakfast and read this book like out in the world. So hopefully this is a book that I'll end up loving, because we have not had a win yet in this video and it's getting very frustrating.
I guess that some things never change. Yeah, I know that it's been ages, but it kinda feels the same. No matter how hard I try, you cannot push me out, so just listen. I've been thinking of you since you broke it and moved to LA. And no matter how hard I try, I cannot get you out of my system.
Okay, hi, hello. It is the next morning. I mean, it's now about like afternoon. It's like 12:30. But I wanted to update you because today I started reading Definitely Better Now. I was actually reading this one while I was sitting in that little cafe eating some breakfast. And I'm so bummed to let you know that I only got up to chapter 7, which is like 84 pages into this one. And I think I've decided to DNF this. I know, we're not surprised. This video is not going very well for me. I think I just went into this book with like the wrong expectations, which like, I don't know why I did, because it definitely talks about what this book is about in the synopsis, because the very first thing it says in this premise is that Emma is an alcoholic, but she's officially been sober for 1 entire year. And so you're following this character Emma after she's been sober for an entire year, and she kind of talks about like a lot of her struggles with like being an alcoholic. But like when I tell you that I'm 80 pages into this book and like there is nothing more to this story than Emma being an alcoholic and Emma like struggling with her alcoholism and talking about how that's impacted her life and her relationships and how she's trying to be better and how she's going to these meetings and she has a sponsor and like her coworkers want to go out to dinner, but she doesn't know if she wants to go out with them because then they're going to be drinking and then it's going to tempt her. And it's just so much about her alcoholism. Like, I thought that there was going to be so much more to this story, and like 80 pages in, it just doesn't really feel that way. And I'm just really struggling with the writing in this. It also feels like, oh my god, the chapters are just so long, and most of this book just feels so wordy where I'm like, oh my god, like let's get to the point. It sucks too, you know, because like this book came out at the end of last year, I think, and I just bought this book earlier this year in like March, so it's not necessarily a book that's been sitting on my backlist for like forever, but it's definitely one that I've been curious about. And I feel like a lot of the times I'm always gravitating towards these books about like women's, you know, struggles or like a coming of age story for like a woman. And I don't know, it's not that I don't have sympathy for her situation, because I definitely do, but I just expected a little bit more plot and like a little bit more things happening in the book other than like her recovering from being an alcoholic. So this is just not really what I'm in the mood to be reading, so I think I'm going to have to spin again once I get home. But I did want to let you know that I just got out of going to this like local thrift store. I don't go into this thrift store super often, but but I decided to come down today just to like take a look. And I realized that this local thrift store is not only doing like women's clothing, but they're also doing books now. And I ended up finding the book Count My Lies, and I found the book of the month copy there for only $5. And I was like, okay, like that is so cool. And they actually had a lot of like newer release books there. So that was such a cool find. I actually have already read this book earlier this year, but I wanted to get it because I ended up really liking this thriller. Like I gave it 4 stars. And this is one that I could see myself like recommending to like my mom or my sister to read. So I just decided to pick it up. I mean, how could I turn it down for $5 for this like basically brand new book of the month copy? That's incredible. So I'm so glad to know that they're doing books here now, because now I might actually come visit this store more often to see what they have. I also did end up getting 3 different shirts, which I will show you once I get back home, and then we can spin again. I'm also sitting right across the parking lot from this cute little coffee place, so I think I might pick up an iced coffee before heading back home. I just made it home and I picked myself up a little iced coffee. I actually had to like remake this when I got to the house because they made it so strong. I was like, bitch, does this even have any milk in it? But it tastes perfect now. I ended up pouring out some of the top and I just added a little bit of my oat milk to this. And I also added some of my like pumpkin spice creamer to make this even better. Oh my god, it's delicious. And then I also swung by the library on the way home because I got a notification that my hold came in for Killer on the Road by Stephen Graham Jones. And this is that really fun horror book that like you read this side first and then when you're done you flip it and you read The Babysitter Lives. It's like halfway through the book the story changes and then you have to like flip the book over and start the other way, which I think the concept for this is so fun and so cool. I haven't really seen anything like this since I was a kid, and even though I don't always love you know, Stephen Graham Jones books, I'm just so curious about this one. Like, god, I hope I can like fit this into my reading at some point this month. Like, I don't know if it's gonna be possible, but like I really want to get to this. Also, I thought I would quickly show you the different shirts that I got at the thrift store. I mean, look at this. First of all, this one, blue, so cute. And then I know you're gonna think this next shirt looks exactly the same, but I just want you to see that they are different shades of blue. Then I also got this one. It's like a cropped light blue t-shirt, and I'm so excited to find this because I've been obsessed with these kind of shirts lately that are kind of like cropped. I just love wearing them with like my jeans or like any of my nice like higher waisted pants. Like I love having shirts like this and they go under everything. Then I also ended up getting this one. It's like this green flowery shirt that I think is so stunning because it's kind of like tight right here. I just love the look of this. I have a lot of like summertime shirts that are like this that are short sleeve, but to have one that's kind of like longer sleeve, I think this is gonna be so nice to have in the fall. Anyway, now let's get down to business. All right, so as you can see, we've got the spinner wheel back on the screen, ready to spin again. Dude, I swear to God, I need a win here. I want something good. Oh. Okay, the Traders. I really thought it was gonna go up to the library at Mount Char and I was gonna be like, you know what? Okay, all right, the Traders. Bookshelf is still kind of a disaster from last night. I think it's behind these. How do I get back there? Okay. Yeah, it's this one. Okay, so The Traders. This is a book that I actually don't know much about. All I know is that it's a thriller book, and I pretty much impulse bought this book at Half Price Books. I want to say maybe like a year ago because I am obsessed with the reality TV show called The Traders. This book title and like this cover and everything about this is giving me major Traders vibes. Like it sounds very similar to the TV show. And apparently this book published early last year. I actually still have the receipt from when I bought it. It says I bought this book on September 21st last year. So like, wow, that's actually crazy. It's almost been exactly a year. Okay, I'm gonna get started with this one and I will let you know my thoughts. Hi, I wanted to check in with an update about The Traders because I have been listening to this all afternoon on audio. My library did have the audiobook available and this is going by so fast. I'm already 156 pages into this and I'm halfway through this book already. This book is absolutely flying by and I am having a really fun time with this. I mean, the audiobook is only 7 hours long and I think this book is only maybe 280 pages. Okay, so premise-wise, I didn't really know what this book was going to end up being about because all I knew is that it kind of looked like the TV show The Traders and that's why I bought this book. But it's interesting because we're following these 6 characters who receive an invitation to go to this place called Beechwood Castle. And Beechwood Castle is where this really horrific murder happened. There was like a bunch of teenagers that got brutally murdered in the 90s. And now Beechwood Castle has a new owner and they're inviting 6 people to come to the castle. And so we're following from the 6 different perspectives perspectives of the characters who are going. And at first I was like, oh god, because like you get so many perspectives and so many names. You actually follow from 7 different point of views in this book because you're following the 6 different people that are going to this castle, and then you also follow from the perspective of the hostess. And I was like, holy shit, like I thought it was going to be way too overwhelming, but it's actually really easy to keep track of like who's who, because there are 4 women who are being invited to the castle and 2 men. The 2 men are actually very easy to like tell apart because one of them is an ex-cop and then the other guy is like this nasty sex offender, like cheater on his wife, like actual pervert, disgusting. So it's very easy to keep the 2 guys separate in my head. But like one of the girls, her name is Stacy, and she has a YouTube channel that's like a true crime kind of like makeup YouTube channel that's like very successful, so she's kind of interesting to read about. And also one of the girls that's going, her name is Lolly, and she was the final girl of the actual massacre that happened at the castle. So we do get the perspective of like the young teen girl who was the only survivor out of all of the teens that got murdered back then. We also follow this other girl named Bonnie, and she says that she has ancestors who were witches, and I'm like, hello, Bonnie from the Vampire Diaries? Like, what? And Bonnie has like quite an intense history because she got caught up in like all of the wrong things. She ended up going to prison, and she has this daughter who she hasn't seen in years. And then we also follow this other woman who is an author who hasn't sold a book in over a decade. I think something that's really interesting about getting the 6 different perspectives is that all 6 of these people have done some pretty horrific things. I mean, almost all of them are like unlikable characters, and almost all of them have done something that's like kind of shady, or like they made some bad choices in their lives and they've had to pay for that. And so it is really interesting because it's one of those stories where like you don't really know the motive behind like why they're getting invited to this castle and like who's inviting them there. But when they do receive the invitation, like the invitation does tell them that if they come to the house, they can win a portion of $1 million. So basically $1 million is going to be split between these 6 people. But what's so cool is that they said 6 people walk into the house, one of them is an imposter, and all of them are traitors. Which of them will survive the night? But right when they get to the house, they know that one of the 6 of them is an imposter, and you're trying to figure out who the imposter is, which is very fun because we as the reader, like we don't even know who the imposter is. And I'm just having such a fun time with this. Like I am very surprised. I feel like this almost is reading kind of like an Agatha Christie, like and then there were none type of a thing, which I know I would usually be like, oh my god, I'm so over it. Like I just don't care about that kind of trope in the writing anymore. But I'm actually having a lot of fun with this so far. It is reading so freaking quick. The chapters are so short. The pacing is so fast. It's actually really easy to be able to tell these characters apart, which is something that I was worried about. And all of the characters are like so unlikable, but like in a really messy and like entertaining way. There's even been a few like little twisty moments where I'm like, oh wait, what? Like I didn't think it was gonna go in that direction. So I'm actually really liking this. Like I feel like this could be like a solid 4 stars for me. I mean, I don't like to predict my ratings for thrillers when I'm only at the halfway point because I feel like thrillers are just so reliant on the ending of the book for me to really figure out my rating, because I do feel like a lot of times with thrillers I'll be very impressed by the first half, and then depending on how, you know, like the twist or like the second half ends up going, I mean, maybe it's all gonna fall apart in these next couple of pages, like I don't know. But right now I'm having so much fun with this, like way more than I thought I was going to. So like what a lovely surprise, and like this is just the perfect read for today because it's actually kind of like gloomy out today. And I know it's still summer at this point at the time that I'm filming this, but it's really starting to feel like fall is like starting to come in, and I just couldn't be more happy about it. And I do love reading a thriller like this where it's just so fast paced and I just want to finish the entire thing within one day, because that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna sit here and finish this because I've got to know what's going on. I think I might also take a walk around the neighborhood while I'm listening to this one on audio since it is such a nice day out. I just got home from my walk and I ended up taking a quick shower to wash my hair, but I finished reading The Traitors, and like, oh my god, this book was such a quick read. Like I finished reading this entire thing in like less than 3 hours, and I had a lot of fun reading this thriller this afternoon. I mean, did I think this thriller brought anything new to the table? No, not really. And like, were there any huge reveals at the end of the story that I didn't see coming? No, not really. I mean, there was something that I thought was like a bit of a plot twist that I was like, whoa, like I didn't see that coming. But I also think this book did a little bit of foreshadowing at one part that made it kind of obvious to me what was going to end up happening at the end. This ended up being such a fun book, and like this is really like my idea of a popcorn thriller, because I don't think this is the kind of thriller that you would want for like a book club pick or something like that. Like there's not a lot of depth to it. There's not necessarily like a lot to talk about with this one, but I do think this is what I'm looking for when I want to like read a thriller all within one sitting. I loved the atmosphere in this book of this like creepy castle, and the way that all these characters were trying to figure out who's the imposter among them. It was really fun, and I loved the fact that all the characters were so unlikable and kind of toxic. Each of them had their own different messy situations that they were dealing with, but I just found it to be very entertaining. I think this one just checked a lot of boxes for me when it comes to thrillers and the things that I enjoy in thrillers, and I think I'm probably gonna end up giving this one like 3.5 stars. I don't think it was like the perfect 4 stars. I do think this is a book that I could have rated like 4 stars or maybe even higher if there had been a huge plot twist that I like did not see coming that completely like knocked my socks off, or maybe if the author like leaned even more into this like creepy atmosphere and like the history at this castle with these murders and had a little bit like creepier atmosphere throughout the story. I really could have rated this higher. I'm so thrilled that I have another thriller that I can recommend and like include in an upcoming recommendations video. Like that's amazing. I noticed on the front here that Geneva Rose is an author that blurbed this, and she said it's wickedly fun and highly addictive. Never thought that I would say that I agree with Geneva Rose, but here we are. You know, I haven't read my book club pick for the month of September yet, How to Survive a Horror Story, but something tells me that these books might actually have a lot in common. I mean, premise-wise, they are pretty similar. I mean, the only thing is that these are like 6 random people getting invited to this castle, and in this one, it's 7 authors who get invited to this castle. So like, it does sound like these could have similar vibes, and I haven't read the book club pick yet this month, so like, I'm hoping that I have at least as much fun with this book as I did with this one. All right, so let's go ahead and spin, and hopefully it sends me off with something good. What is it gonna be? Oh my god, the slowest burn! Oh, that's so crazy. Okay, so this one is The Slowest Burn. This is a romance that I've had sitting on my TBR for about a year as well. This one actually came out in September 2024. You know what's so funny is that I was just thinking about reading this book for the full moon readathon vlog that I just did, because last month I participated in Jan's full moon readathon, and one of the prompts was to read like a slow burn book or something like that, and I thought it would be funny to read a book called The Slowest Burn for that prompt, because I was like, if the title implies that it's a slow burn, then it's probably a slow burn, right? But I've been curious and excited to read this one because I think that it involves like a chef. Oh, okay, so it says this girl Ellie is the top ghostwriter for celebrity cookbooks. Oh my god, what the heck? That's so weird. I just read the Dead Husband cookbook last month, and that one also deals with like a celebrity ghostwriter chef for cookbooks. Like, that is so strange. Oh, and so then the guy in this book, he's an up-and-coming chef who scored big on a reality TV competition, and so she's gonna be working on his book. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, hi, it's the next afternoon, and like, I really hate this, but I'm definitely DNFing The Slowest Burn after 38 pages, because what the freak is this book? What is this writing? I am really immediately not vibing with the writing in this book or with the characters. They're all driving me crazy. I mean, one thing right away is that I'm only on chapter 4 and I'm on page 38. Like, I hate the fact that the chapters are so freaking long, but then also, just to give you a sample of the writing in this book and some parts that are driving me crazy, I mean, one of the parts when she first meets him is when she says, I didn't know why chefs insisted on having knives tattooed on their arms. It wasn't like they were going to forget what they did for a living. Like, what? Like, that's the reason anyone ever gets a tattoo, to like remind themselves what they do for a living. It's just such a weird thing to say. And then also this guy, the first time that he sees her, he says, "Cookie," I thought when I looked at Ellie. Not that I wanted to eat her. I wasn't a cannibal or anything. And he said, but she reminded me of the cookies my mother baked when her bride group came to our house. Like, just such a weird thing to say. Like, what are we talking about? Oh my god, the worst thing ever too is that this girl in the book, she recently just lost her husband. That was this guy named Max. And we've gotten 3 flashbacks of this guy Max already. And in every single flashback, he calls her Kitten. Oh my god, that's like one of my least favorite nicknames that I've ever heard in my life. And I feel like that's a bad sign, because even though that's like a flashback of her ex-husband, like if we're supposed to be finding that like so beautiful in a flashback, like I'm supposed to be like, oh my god, oh Max, then like that's a bad sign for the romance in this book, right? I just hate the nicknames. Oh my god, the Kitten nickname is never cute. It will never be cute. It was also like so cringy to me because she was having like kind of a serious phone call with her brother, and then she's literally comfort him by being like, I know, stretch. because I guess that was like his nickname as a kid. And then he says back to her, he's like, I know, I love you, shrimp. The cheesy ass nicknames during kind of a serious phone call is just so cringy to me. And then also, this was kind of like the nail in the coffin, but this was so stupid. He's like, Ellie's words asking about my plans for the book had been blander than unseasoned oatmeal. Bland, but bitchy. I snorted, thinking about bitchy oatmeal. What? What the fuck? I wish that I was joking, but those are all like direct quotes from this book. Like the writing is not great, and I'm not liking either of these characters. I'm not gonna read this one today. And I know I'm so annoying. Like if I wasn't so deep into this video project, I would actually consider just scrapping this entire video because I'm so frustrated with myself by how many times I've already DNF'd. But also like I'm not gonna push myself to read these shitty books, you know, like that is not the point of this video series. So here we are once again with my spin the wheel. Hopefully this is the last time that we have to spin for this video. Let's see what it gives me. Hopefully something good. Joyland? Okay. That's a Stephen King book. Oh my god. Okay, so here's Joyland. You know, this is actually so perfect because I've been meaning to read more Stephen King. I feel like I used to read a lot of Stephen King back in like 2020, 2021. I used to do a lot of videos that were like dedicated reading vlogs to Stephen King, and I haven't read him for quite a while. I mean, I read the book You Like It Darker, I think last year or maybe like earlier this year, and I really didn't care for that one too much. But this is one that I've owned for a long time. I think that this book has been out for a long time. It's not totally clear to me when this book published, but I think this edition, like this copy that I have, says it published in 2013. I don't know why I was assuming that this was one that published like a long time ago, like maybe in like the 70s or 80s, but I think it's actually a little bit more recent. This is also one that I'm curious to read because, you know, Stephen King is obviously known for writing like horror books, you know, of course, but I think that this one actually leans a little bit more into like crime, like thriller kind of fiction, which is definitely something I'm interested in reading from him, especially because I ended up loving his book called Later, which was another one of his like hard case crime books, I think. So that'll be nice to read another Stephen King, and I feel like I'm getting to that point in the year where like I am craving another Stephen King. Okay, hi, hello. It's a little bit later in the afternoon. It's about 2:30, but I wanted to update you because I've been reading Joyland and I just hit page 130. So I think I'm almost at the halfway point because this one is actually on the shorter side. It's only like 275 pages, so it's not too long, and I'm so happy to let you know that I'm actually really enjoying this one a lot so far. You know, jumping into this, I actually had no idea what the story was gonna end up being about. I mean, all I knew about this book was that it was gonna be taking place at this amusement park that's called Joyland, and what I didn't know about it is that we were gonna be following from the perspective of this young guy who's a college student named Devin Jones, and he's recently just gone through this like really difficult breakup with this girl named Wendy that he really like saw a future with. So on the back here, it says that he takes this summer job at Joyland hoping to forget the girl who broke his heart. Something that I'm really liking about this book is that I love the way that Stephen King writes, because he's writing this story like at the start of this when Devin's character is like 60 years old and he's kind of like looking back on his life. And I love that kind of narration style because there's always so many of these like ominous moments where he's like, little did I know that this was gonna happen next. Or he does this like foreshadowing in his writing that's just really beautiful. Like, I don't know, I love the way that he writes. Like an example of one of the parts I loved is when he said, I felt excited all over again and hungry for summer to begin. I love the way that this book is talking about summer, and I actually think that this is like the perfect time for me to be reading this because right now it's like the end of summer, like really late summer, and this book has so many amazing descriptions of like summertime and like while this boy is like working at Joyland. I actually kind of love getting the like day-to-day kind of like seeing what his responsibilities are while he's working there, because it shows a lot of their like team meetings, how they're always like, we have to sell joy to these kids and these families when they come here, and how he feels like a lot of weight of responsibility on him when it comes to like operating certain rides and like making sure everything's going smoothly. And I also am really connecting to Devin as a character so far. And the reason why this book is a crime thriller is because there was this crazy murder that happened at Joyland. So I guess a few years ago there was this guy who took this girl into the horror house. They went in together, but only he came out. And it says he cut her throat and threw her out besides the monorail track the cars run on. And so that's something that happened at Joyland recently that a lot of the people are talking about. And it's kind of creepy because they said that this woman who died there, Linda Gray, they said that she haunts the funhouse. They said, all I know is that lots of people who work at Joyland claim to have seen her standing beside the track, wearing what she had on when they found her, which is interesting because the details of that were never released to the public. So like nobody should be able to know like what she was wearing when she was found. Not only that, but they said it turns out that since 1961, there have been 4 similar murders in Georgia and the Carolinas, all young girls, 1 stabbed, 3 others with their throats cut. The reporter dug up at least 1 cop who said all of them could have been killed by the same guy who murdered Linda Gray. And then he's like, oh my god, beware of the funhouse killer. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what they called him. So I love the mystery of like trying to figure out like what happened to this girl. But also, like I was saying, I'm just really loving the writing in general in this book. It has that amazing like coming of age kind of a vibe to the writing. Like one of the quotes I ended up tabbing and underlining is when he said, when you're 21, life is a roadmap. It's only when you get to be 25 or so that you begin to suspect you've been looking at the map upside down, and not until you're 40 are you entirely sure. And then by the time you're 60, take it from me, you're fucking lost. I was like, damn, like that is so beautifully said. I also loved when he was trying to define what history means, and he said history is the collective and ancestral shit of the human race, a great big and ever-growing pile of crap. Right now we're standing at the top of it, but pretty soon we'll be buried under the doo-doo of generations yet to come. It's just great. I don't know, like Stephen King just has such a way with words, and I love the feeling that this book is giving me. Like it feels like one of those like perfect summer horror, summer thriller kind of stories that like take place at this amusement park. I just feel like this is something that I've been craving for a long time and I didn't even know it. I also love quotes like this when he says, when it comes to the past, everyone writes fiction. Or when he says, in the spring of 1973, the last year of my childhood. Like I just love the nostalgic feel to the writing. Like I love that this is taking place in the 1970s. That's probably why I thought the book was like published back in the 1970s or the 80s because of the setting, but it's actually not. I think this book was actually published more recently, and I'm just loving this so much more than I thought I was going to. Like I don't want to jinx it because I'm only like halfway through, but like this feels like it could be like a 4 or maybe even a 5-star read for me. I don't really have too much going on this afternoon. I mean, it's only 2:30, so like I'm just gonna sit here and try to finish the rest of this book today. Okay, hi, checking in again because it's almost 5 o'clock at night and I just finished reading Joyland, and I'm so happy to let you know that I actually ended up really liking this one a lot. I think I'm probably gonna end up giving it 4 stars as opposed to 5 stars. I mean, I do think some of the thriller elements in this book just like didn't really wow me, I guess, in the way that I thought it might. I think it's really interesting though how Stephen King managed to write a book that was so interesting, even though a lot of the like thriller elements in the story don't even come into the story really until like the last 30% of the story, because so much of this book is just like this slow burn kind of like coming of age story for this young boy, and I was just so engaged the entire book. Like I didn't find any of this to be boring, and it is wild to me that I enjoyed this book so much because I will say I think the thriller elements of this book were actually like the weakest aspects of the book to me, or I guess maybe I just expected like a little bit more. But then like the actual ending of this book itself, like I loved the way that this book ended. And you know, like I was saying earlier, this book just has that perfect like coming of age in the 1970s, like following a young boy. It actually kind of reminded me of my experience with reading Lost Man's Lane by Scott Carson earlier this year, because I just read this book for Summerween, and I was saying how like this book is like my ideal perfect like summer coming of age, almost like Stephen King inspired type of a book. And this would be like the perfect comparison, not because of like the setting necessarily, you know, because this one takes place, you know, at Joyland, like this amusement park. So this one has even more atmosphere than this book does. There are a lot of similarities with these books and why they reminded me a lot of each other, but mostly just because of the feeling that I got, that like coming of age feeling where you're following a young kid who's like navigating his life. It's kind of written in a way where this character is like reflecting on his youth as like an older person. And I just really, really loved that writing style. Oh, sorry, I am like so toasty right now. I just got back from a walk and I decided to like listen to the last part of this on audio on my Spotify so that I could go and take a walk. And like it's a little bit hotter out today than I thought it was gonna be. But like, wow, I'm so glad that I have a new favorite from Stephen King. Like I think this book is 4 stars, and it feels good to love another book from him because it has been a while since I felt this good about a Stephen King book. And that makes me so happy that we finally made it to the end of this video and I actually have a book that I enjoy. Like this is a book that's actually gonna stay on my bookshelves. It's a book that I can recommend pretty widely, and that makes my heart happy because, you know, it took a lot to get here. So thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of this vlog. I'm so sorry about all of the DNF DNFs, but you know, it was worth it because if I hadn't DNF'd that book earlier today, then I probably would not have been reading this today. And I'm so glad that I made the decision to pivot and read something that I actually ended up really liking. That's why I will always say that DNFing books is worth it, because life is literally way too short. Oh my God, we were talking about this on Patreon the other day about how like you will never be able to read all of the books that are on your TBR, you know? Like life is way too short. We only have so much time on this earth. So like you might as well ditch the book that you're not enjoying, right? Because life is way too freaking short for that. And because you're never gonna have the time to read every single book on your TBR, it's okay to be picky. You know, not every book deserves your time, and that's okay. But anyway, I hope that you have been continuing to enjoy this Backlist Bonanza series. I love doing these episodes so much. Like I love the anticipation of the spin the wheel and like not knowing what I'm gonna read next. But please do let me know your thoughts on any of these books if you've read any of these books, and let me know what was the last book that you DNF'd. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye.